Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Proactive Nutrition Cooking class. My name is Kelsey Baez. I am the Wildcats nutritionist here at Texas State. This will be the last cooking class that I host. I am a master's candidate, and I'm going to be working on a thesis. So in the process of doing that, I will be stepping down from being the Wildcats nutritionist, and a new person will be taking my place. So it has been a pleasure working with everyone that has been here, but this will be my last class. So it's been fun, and I really have enjoyed everything and working with you all. Something for you to know about the Wildcat services with nutrition, though, is that we do obviously these cooking classes, but we also do one-on-one nutrition consultations. There is actually a webinar series that we participate in with Wildcats in general, but nutrition often hosts an educational component within it. I'm hosting one next Friday at noon. So check with Wildcats, the Wildcats page to be on Teams to be able to get information on that if you're interested. But aside from that, we're going to just go ahead and jump into our recipe. I'm really excited to share this recipe with you because it's a delicious one. It is a take on something that I do quite frequently in my house because the theme this month for our nutrition classes is being proactive with meal prepping and being like balling on a budget, basically. So everything that I brought for you today and what we cooked on last Tuesday, everything was under $25. And I'm going to show you the recipe now of what we're doing, but I want you to take note in the fact that everything that is on this recipe is virtually identical, aside from the barbecue sauce and the tortillas, to what we made on Wednesday. I'm just shifting around some of the ingredients, and this is a great way to be able to multiply out how much food you're making throughout the week and be able to have diversity throughout your week and not get bored with eating the same thing over and over. So in theory, even though you're watching me cook this twice, you're seeing that we have like 2 pounds of chicken breast. And that chicken breast, you could easily double that to 4 with the method that we're cooking it. And then that would be able to spread out longer throughout the week, depending on how many mouths you have to feed. But let's back up for a second because I realize I'm getting ahead of myself. Today, what we're making is easy meal prep barbecue chicken tacos with a citrus slaw and some quote unquote refried beans. They're really just mashed beans, but they still give you that refried taste. So I find them enjoyable. Of course, if you want to do an actual refried bean, I'll tell you that basically you're going to do everything that I'm doing, but then you're going to put them back in the pot and maybe add in some mayonnaise if you want to add in mayonnaise. We're just not going to be doing that portion here. Now, the calories per serving, and the way that I'm giving you this recipe is for you to have 4 servings in what we're making. But the calories are 621. We're getting 37 grams of protein, and that's from our meat and our beans primarily. We're looking at about 15 grams of fat, which is a nice amount for a meal. And then our carbohydrates are 87. Again, this is a really good distribution of macronutrients for eating for like lunch, or if you want to do this for a dinner or whatever. Excuse me. So you'll see on our ingredient list that well, I already talked about the chicken breast. You can do chicken thighs as well, but I recommend that you do boneless and skinless because the way that we're going to be cooking it, the skinless, if you have skin on it, it's just going to add a layer of fat into your cooking process, and it's just going to be more difficult to remove everything. And then I say boneless, you have to pay attention to cost, but often whenever you're buying thighs, even though you're paying per ounce, you have to remember that you're paying per ounce includes that bone, and that's not an edible portion is what we call that in the nutrition world. So I'm saying the 2 pounds boneless because then we know that you're getting the same amount of meat that I am suggesting in this recipe. I hope that helps. And if there's questions, feel free to stop me at any time. I love questions. We're going to be using barbecue sauce, some tortillas, the beans. We're making the beans the exact same way that we made them on Tuesday. This is actually a take of my mother-in-law's habichuela recipe. So she is Puerto Rican Dominican, and this style of bean is something that my husband grew up on. I love it, so we've adopted it within our family, and now I'm sharing it with you. And then the citrus coleslaw, this is actually a new recipe for me. I've never made this citrus coleslaw before. Normally I'll just add some olive oil and lemon, but I felt like that was a little boring to bring to you guys. I like it, but I wanted to bring something with a little bit more pizzazz. So that's why we're gonna try that new citrus coleslaw. So let me stop sharing. Perfect. And we're going to jump in and we're going to start with our chicken breast. So today I'm going to be doing this in an Instapot, and it's okay if you don't have an Instapot. You can do virtually what I'm going to show you with either a crock pot. You can put just so I have our chicken breasts. I have them filleted in half so that they're thinner, because if they're thinner, they're going to cook faster because you're getting more heat to them quicker. So you want to apply this principle of thin and across and try not to overlap them as much as possible, whether you're using a crock pot, if you're boiling them in a regular stovetop pot. And then we just want to make sure that we're covering the chicken with water. And then I am doing just water. And I know that seeing that off, just like right off the bat, it's kind of like just water, there's no flavor. That's the point, because if we are making a big bulk of chicken like this, we can add in flavor whenever we're ready to make it for whatever we're making. So I made a mistake on Tuesday, and I said that whenever you cook the shredded chicken, that it retains more moisture. And what I meant to say is that we can easily add in moisture and we can easily add in flavor into our chicken. So that's why I really like to use shredded chicken as a meal prep option, because it's so versatile. So we can easily add in some salsa, and then we can roll it and make enchiladas. We can add in barbecue sauce and do a pulled pork or a pulled chicken sandwich. So it's just more versatile, and you can add whatever seasonings you want after it's cooked, but you're going to be able to be more creative. So let me show you my Instapot, just in case you're not familiar with them. So what I did is I already showed you how I have it lined up in here, and then you put on the top and I seal it closed, and you want to make sure there's a little vent back here. You want to make sure that the vent is closed. Now there's a pressure cook option. I do not want to cook that for an hour. So I'm going to cook it on high for 15 minutes. And what's going to happen is this is going to beep, and then that's going to start building up pressure inside of my pot. And then after the pressure is adequately built up inside of it, then my timer will start. So even though I've set this for 15 minutes, it's actually going to be cooking for a little bit longer than that. And then I'm going to let it, as we're cooking, I'm going to let it set even a little bit longer before I release the steam and then access it. So there's that. We got our chicken started. And then next what we're going to do is we're going to dice up our onion so that we can, let's go down here. And we're going to dice up our onion so that we can start our beans, our habichuela. So if you've cooked with me before, you definitely know this onion trick. I didn't show it on Tuesday, so that's why I'm showing it today. So whenever we're dicing an onion, we want to cut off this part right here, and we want to leave the root. So slicing that off, and we can just get rid of it. We are done with that portion. Next, we're going to cut the onion in half right through the root, and we are going to remove this outer layer, the skin, I think my daughter calls them leaves, whatever you want to call them. We're removing that. And then we're going to set up the framework of what size we want our dicing of our onion to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to keep it parallel with the board. And I'm working from the angle that I just sliced off here. So I put my hand on the top so that I make sure that my blade is never going to run into my hand. And I just am going to slice down here. And I'm going about, I don't know, this is 1/2 inch that I'm just working my way down the onion. Perfect. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to space out my, being perpendicular to the root, I'm going to space out my slices. And however wide you make this is however wide your dices are going to be. whenever you dice it. So next, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be parallel with the original cut that we did. And as you can see, we now have diced onions very quickly. And I don't know, I feel like you cry less whenever you do this. I'm not saying that you won't cry, but I feel like it's less, I don't know, you get less of the tears. Okay, sometimes you have to just dice a little piece here. All right, perfect. So now we have our diced onions, and we're gonna use garlic too. I already have some garlic that's minced right here, but I wanted to show you because I mentioned it before and some people were really interested in it. So I have this garlic press. It is Pampered Chef. I do not sell Pampered Chef. It was a gift to me, but I just think it's really cool and you should know that it exists. But you can take a whole garlic with it in the shell and just push it right through. And then I just take the back of my knife and I scrape it off, and then boom, that is the quickest garlic press I've ever had. And then it even comes with this little comb and I can push out stuff in there. So that's really cool. I definitely recommend investing in a garlic press if you're like me and enjoy garlic in pretty much everything you eat. If you do not have a garlic press, I do want to just show you, if we have garlic here, you can take the flat side of your knife and you're just going to smack it. Take that little shell off. You can see already this is just taking a little bit more time. But I like for people to know that there are multiple options and you get to choose whatever fancy kitchen gadgets you do or do not want. So I'm just going through and I'm just cutting it from multiple angles. There's not really a wrong way to mince something but what you want to do is you want to always put it and return it back into a pile and mix it up a little bit and then just keep slicing it until you get the consistency that you want. So there we go. I'm going to call that done. It is bigger than the other side, but I honestly think it's fine. Okay, so next what we're gonna do is we're gonna hop over to the stove and we're gonna start sauteing our onions. So just all you have to do is look to the left side of the screen. Right now, are there any questions or anything that we have based off of what we've talked about?
Yes, I had a question about your pink beans.
Yeah.
What designates them as pink beans, or is a particular brand?
So because of the fact that I told you that I'm making a Puerto Rican bean, the habichuela, it's an actual like Puerto Rican bean. So that's why I'm using them. You can find them in like the international aisle and sometimes they're in the regular aisle. They gave me a really big can. I ordered the half size, but they gave me double that. So this is what we're going with today. But a pink bean actually is its own bean. But I will tell you that if you can't find a pink bean, I make this exact same recipe and I do it with any bean. I'll do it with black bean, I'll do it with pinto, whatever you like. That flavor is going to be really good. I like this one because it's a little bit more mild. It's like it's kind of more like a pinto bean, I would say, but a little bit more buttery. So
okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, let's go check over here on how our pan is. Our pan, I think, is okay. I'm going to put my oil in the pan. And what I'm looking for, there are two different ways that we can check and see if our pan is ready. So one that I show quite frequently is that you take a little bit of water in your hand and you dash it in there. And if it sizzles, if it evaporates quickly, then you know it's ready. I've had the heat going on at a relatively high heat for a minute. So I went ahead and added my oil in here. So I'm just going to move my oil around. And if you see, it's moving around relatively quickly. It's kind of moving more like water instead of like oil. So to me, that says I'm pretty much ready. So we're going to add in our onion now. I'm not going to add in my garlic because the garlic is a lot smaller than what we diced our onion. And because the garlic is bigger, it's going to take longer to cook. I don't want to burn our garlic because if we burn our garlic, it just doesn't taste as good. So we're going to add in this onion. Hear that beautiful sizzle. The garlic I had today is really potent. It's got a really strong smell to it. I'm really excited about that. All right. We're gonna mix this around. I'll probably have to add in a little bit more olive oil. I had to do that on Tuesday as well. But because I'm doing this recipe based off of like old habits, it's hard to be like, yeah, you know what, I add a tablespoon in there. And then I realize, oh wait, no, maybe I do 2 tablespoons. So we'll watch and we'll see how this onion looks. And then I'll add in my seasoning. It's telling me I need to be in a cooking class, sorry. And then we'll add in our seasoning after we see that our onions are starting to get a little bit more tender and a little bit more translucent. You can add the seasoning in after you've added in your beans, but for some reason I find that this just has much more flavor to it. I don't understand why but I do prefer this method of adding in the seasoning with sauteing first. I've done both methods. You end up with beans. They're tasty. They're just tastier this way. So I added in about another tablespoon. And I'm just looking for my onions to lighten up a little bit. They don't have to be perfectly translucent or perfectly cooked because I'm going to be essentially boiling them in the bean flavor as well. So they're going to cook more anyhow. So I'm just letting that cook for a little bit longer. These beans, like I said, are a staple in my household. Rice and beans in general are a great like platform for creating a recipe or creating a meal. So on our Tuesday recipe, we make these and then the way I had it is that you layer the beans and the sauce all together on the onion. And then today what we're going to do is we're going to make a mashed bean. And those beans, if you make a lot of that, can be used for a versatile. I'm going to serve them as a side. I've also made them as breakfast tacos and put a little cheese. But the point is that you're cooking a lot at once without taking a lot of time, and it's going to be able to feed you throughout the week. So that's kind of my biggest goal with meal prep, because if it takes all day, that just doesn't work for my lifestyle. Does anyone else here, have you ever tried meal prepping?
Not so much, no.
That's okay. Is it something that you're interested in, or you just, no?
I'd have to be more of a planner on my meals, but
yeah, I totally get that. I think that I'm in such a groove with what I do that's why I like this, because basically with my meal prep, I'm not going to go through and I don't plan everything out. It's more of a what do I have on hand and how can I make this happen? And it usually complements whatever I'm eating for the week. So for instance, if I know I'm going to be having enchiladas for dinner, because I do spend time to plan my dinners, then I know I'm going to be having some form of taco one day for breakfast or for lunch. So that's kind of how I do it. And then some, it works differently for everybody. Let's check on our onion here. All right. So you can see from whenever they first started that they're turning a little bit more opaque. They're more white and the color's more even, so I know they're cooking. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add in my seasoning. So this was cumin, sage, and oregano, a really fine grade oregano, and I do have salt in here as well. And I did measure them out according to how I told you, so that I would know that, the flavors were right. And they were right on Tuesday, so I feel good about that. So I'm going to mix these in, and then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to add in my garlic at this point. Starting to get a really good aroma in here. The seasoning that we chose, that the cumin, the oregano, and the sage, is a very bold smell, but it complements, or a very bold flavor, but it complements the onion and the garlic really well. And once we add in at the end, we're going to add in a little bit of apple cider vinegar after the beans are cooked. It really just makes it kind of light and refreshing, and you're getting a lot of flavor without a lot of effort. I really enjoy that. I thought I heard someone take himself off mute. Is there a question? No? Something I did want to tell y'all that the reason why I put my seasonings inside of a bowl like this and then dump it is because if you take your actual seasoning and then you just like dump it into a pot and just start shaking it in there, all this steam will go inside of your shakers, and then you end up getting really clumpy seasonings for the next time you use them. And then you're sitting there and you're banging them on the counters or whatever else to try and get that flavor out. So I always just like take the time, I'll either put it in the bowl or I'll put it in my hand, but I never directly put my seasoning, just shake right into a pot or pan. All right, these are looking good. They smell really fragrant, and I can smell my garlic now too. So that is an indication to put the beans in. Now, I don't know why they gave me double the size of what I ordered. Thank you, is what I'm gonna say. But I'm gonna go ahead and just pour in half of this. That way we're staying true to the portions that I'm giving everybody, okay? I am gonna leave this liquid, the liquid that's inside of the beans, and I'm gonna pour it into the pot as well. It just gives it more extra flavor. If you're someone that has to watch your sodium for a variety of reasons, you can drain these, rinse them, put them in there, and just add in like a water and like maybe a low sodium like bouillon cube or something to give it a little extra flavor. But I like adding this right in here because it's got a lot of the starch that's already in the beans. So it's just gonna give it a little thicker taste and a thicker flavor by leaving the contents in there. All right. I'm eyeballing it. I know that 30, I told you 15, so 30 on this, that's half. So we're gonna call that done. I'm gonna give it a little spin or a little stir so that it's all even. We're gonna cover it with a lid. And I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit. The good thing is that those beans are actually pretty much already cooked. We're just warming them up. So, and the longer you cook them, the softer they are and the better they are. So they'll technically be ready to eat probably in about 10 minutes. We'll let them set for about 20 and eat them then. But my mother-in-law, whenever she makes them, she will cook them all day. You like walk into her house and you just smell beans and you're like, can I eat them already? They smell so good. And they're a great way to add in other vegetables. So often I'll have like extra bell pepper on hand, or maybe carrots or something. I saute those in right with my onion, and it just adds in more vegetables. It doesn't really change the flavor that much because of the seasonings and the vinegar that we're putting in there. That's mainly what you taste, but you can just toss in like extra whatever you have laying around, and it's really good. Okay, so next we got our chicken going, we've got our beans on there, so let's go ahead and let's start on our coleslaw. So the cabbage, this is the cabbage that we're using, and I bought a whole cabbage. The reason why I bought a whole cabbage, they do have pre-shredded cabbage, and if you look at it, pre-shredded cabbage is cheaper than regular cabbage, because if you buy pre-shredded cabbage, it's like $1.29, and this was about $1.30, maybe $1.50. But the difference is that you're paying per pound on this, and you're paying per ounce whenever you buy the shredded. So whenever you divide this out on and you find out how much per ounce this is, you'll look and you'll see that this is about 0.03 cents an ounce versus buying the pre-shredded where it's 20 cents an ounce. So that multiplies out to a lot. So you're getting more product by buying the whole, even though you're spending a little bit more money. And it's not to discourage from buying pre-shredded. I'll be honest, I buy pre-shredded often too. So just know what that is for you. So for the fact that I'm meal prepping and that I'm going to be doing this for good portion of the week, or maybe even cooking some with dinner. Like I cook German food, so I might be using like half of my cabbage to make sauerkraut. Then that's more reason for me to buy a whole head versus a shredded one. But I'm going to show you how I shred my cabbage. And that's basically with a knife. I find this to be faster, and I find this to be safer than using a mandolin slicer, which is what most people use. I'll even show you, I have a scar here forever from making coleslaw once from using a mandolin slicer. So what we're gonna do, I like to always find the most stable part of my produce and cut through there. So if we're looking at this, we've got a ball. It's not gonna be very stable, but I do have the stem. So I'm gonna stand it up here, make sure my fingers are out of the way. I'm gonna cut right through the middle of it for as much as possible. And we're looking for 4 cups. We'll measure this out. Often what I do is I just use like a quarter of the leaf, and then I for lunches, and then I'll use like another quarter for something else. You know, I just divide it up by quarters, but we'll see what that actually adds up to. So next, this is called the heart. I'm going to remove the heart because it's really bitter and it's hard to chew. So we're just going to reach in and we're going to cut that out. Get rid of that. And then essentially all I'm going to do is I'm going to slice it really thinly. So I'm just going to take this, and I'm keeping it's stable by putting it down on the flat side of what I've cut. And I'm just thinly slicing this. Okay. There we go. I do this once a week, but whenever I put it on video for everyone to watch me, all of a sudden I can't cut. So once I do this, what I like to do is I like to just go through and chop it the other way, just to make it a little bit thinner and more bite-sized, because these are long shredded pieces, and it just makes it more awkward to eat, especially when you're sitting in front of a coworker and you got cabbage slapping you in the face. So I'm just gonna thinly slice this a little bit more. And then I wash my cabbage after I cut it, because you'll find that it's got like sand and just more dirt in it. I didn't measure this out, but that was two handfuls, and that's 3. So this is about 3 cups. We're gonna leave it at 3 cups. I'm not gonna cut up another quarter right now. So I'm just gonna put a little water in this, and I'll let it sit, and we'll drain it in a minute. And we'll start making the sauce for the coleslaw. You can do a mayonnaise-based coleslaw. I just traditionally don't do that because I don't like the way coleslaw tastes after you've had it set in your refrigerator for a couple days. However, whenever it's just like a little bit of olive oil and vinegar, I don't find that to be off-putting. My cabbage is still relatively firm and has good flavor. But ultimately, this coleslaw recipe is similar to if you did a mayonnaise base, you just have to add in a little bit of mayonnaise. Let me get another cup here, a bowl here. Okay, all right, so we've got that. Oh, we didn't do our carrot. Cut our carrot really quick. So I'm gonna cut off the end. I don't peel it, especially for something like this. I don't think that it's worth the time personally, but if you do, of course, go ahead and peel them. And essentially all I'm going to do is thinly chop these.
I have a question, Kelsey.
Sure. Yeah.
So when you're meal prepping like this, you would like do a lot of this like one morning for the week, a lot of the chopping and stuff?
Depends. So a lot of times what I'll do, I have a daughter, a 3-year-old. So what I'll do is I might do some of my chopping ahead of time, before I'm going to do the cooking. So like if I go shopping on a Thursday night, that's more frequent for me. I might do my chopping that Thursday night or maybe even Friday morning before my daughter wakes up.
Mhm.
And then I'll set like my carrots, they can set in water, or my cabbage, I'll wash it and then I put it in a Ziploc bag, and then I'll use it after it's drained, and then I'll use it whenever I'm ready to cook it then. So that's kind of how I do the approach, and then I'll cook on another day. So when it comes to prepping, all in all, I'm doing something different usually. I might place my HEB order on Monday, and then I pick it up on Thursday or Friday. Then I'm doing some of my chopping. That like I break it up, I guess, is the whole message there. Does that help? Do you meal prep?
No, I don't. It feels like too much of a like colossal task to do, even though I know the benefits of it. So I'm thinking about exploring it.
Yeah, I would honestly just recommend just starting with like staples that you already make a lot and just make extra of it. And then you can decide what that looks like for you as far as like, now do I freeze some of it, or do I know that I'm going to move some of this for dinner? Because that's ultimately what I do. So I know for without a doubt that like we do a lot of pasta, we do a lot of rice, things like that. So I'll make ahead in bulk whatever I know we're going to have, and I'll divide that up and make a versatile menu based off of that. So maybe one day I'm making spaghetti, and then the next day I'm making shrimp scampi for lunch, you know. And just really making sure that I'm making stuff that we're gonna eat. Because I feel like a lot of people will go and like find a bunch of recipes online, and then they don't even know what they like it, and then you just made like 14 meals of something you don't know if you like it.
Yeah. Or also like sometimes you'll find out, like I feel like some stuff tastes better the next day, some stuff does not.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, that's a one night recipe, or I can eat that multiple days recipe.
I absolutely agree with you. And I find that my grains are usually the ones that taste better the next day, as long as you know how to reheat them. But they usually are the ones that are going to absorb a lot of the flavor. And then whenever you reheat them, you just usually add a little bit of water and microwave them. And then that keeps the moisture and doesn't, and then you have an enhanced flavor as well.
Yeah.
All right. Let me start adding in. All right. We need olive oil and sugar. Okay, we're gonna do a teaspoon of granulated sugar. This is a half teaspoon, so I'm gonna do 2. You could also use a sugar substitute. I often use like stevia or not sweet and low. What's the yellow? Splenda. I do a lot of Splenda. Whenever I want something more sweet, I'll do half and half. Okay, Dijon mustard. We want a teaspoon of that. I was interested about the Dijon mustard. I've never made a coleslaw with a Dijon mustard. So some of this is genuinely my curiosity as well. Okay, so that beep is telling us that the chicken is done. And when it comes to buying the chicken, what I did was I ended up buying it in a value pack. And the value pack was able to make both meals that we're seeing from Tuesday and today. But one of the main reasons why I did it was because it was cheaper per ounce. But you have to double check that, because I was comparing it to like frozen chicken or fresh chicken or organic chicken. And whenever you look at that, each one will say like per ounce, or it'll say per pound, or it'll say per package. So finding, if you go through and you look and you can figure out a metric that's the same metric for you to compare across, then that's how you can find out if you're actually saving money or not. So the value pack Even though it was technically like, I want to say like $3 more expensive than like buying the 2-piece packs, I save more money. But that's not always the case. Quite frequently, what'll happen is that I'll end up buying like multiple 2-piece packets, and that'll be cheaper than buying the value pack. So always check, because just because it worked out this way and you bought the value pack this time doesn't mean that it's always the value pack. So something to keep in mind. All right, let's see. We got the olive oil, we've got the granulated sugar, we got the Dijon, we need cilantro. Let me show you how I keep my cilantro, just in case you don't know. So whenever you buy cilantro at the store, it comes in a container, in one of these plastic containers. So what I do is I cut that bag so that it's as long as my cilantro is in a cup. And then I put my cilantro, I clean my cilantro, and then I put in a cup of water. This lasts so long in the refrigerator, and I'll put it on the top shelf. And I mean, I, no joke, will have like cilantro last for like 2 weeks, no problem in my fridge. Whenever I do this method, if I just curl it up and put it in a crisper drawer, a couple days, like it lasts just a couple days. It's not very long. All right, we're doing 3 tablespoons of fresh cilantro. I like to leave the stalk on because I think it has more flavor that way. I'm gonna cut off these ends though. And because it's going in with like the cabbage and the crunchy things, like you're not gonna really notice it as much. But it's truly a flavor thing for you, or a preference thing for you. For the longest time, I didn't eat the stems until I moved to Mexico, and I realized that in Mexico they use the whole part of it, and I realized it was just some weird bias that I had that I no longer have. Because I can't tell the difference. I just think it enhances flavor by using the stem. All right, so we got our cabbage, we got our carrot, we need our lime juice, olive oil, granite. Okay, perfect. We just need lime juice. Limes. So I really enjoy limes and lemons in a lot of my cooking. I like the refreshing taste of it, but sometimes you buy them and they're a little dense, right? Or they're a little too soft. If you get a dense lime or lemon, something that I really like to do is I create a mechanical force to soften it up, which basically means I roll it. I'm going to show you on my cutting board, but I don't do it on my cutting board because it slips. But I'll put it down and I take my palm flat and I just put my other hand on it. I put some weight on it and then I roll it around, and I'll roll it around and get as much of it as possible. And then it's like super soft. Like, I don't know if you can see my thumbprints in here, but it gets super soft. So it's easier to juice. It's a little extra step, but I think that it's worth it. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this, and I'm going to go ahead. I think I'm just going to squeeze one whole lime in here. We'll mix it up. This is a really interesting combination, but this smells good. Adding that lime in there with that Dijon, it smells pretty good. Is anyone in here Dijon mustard fans? I just recently became one, and I feel like I'm making up for lost time.
Not so much, but I guess it fits in with other things. I'm okay with it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's got a really powerful taste. So I've learned to use it as an ingredient rather than as like a standalone thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I did a recipe not too long ago to where it was, you put some Dijon mustard in it and you mixed it with sour cream, and it was a topping for chicken, and it was really good. It was really good. I was surprised. And that's whenever I started learning, maybe I need to give it another try. But I can't just like eat it on a hot dog. All right, I'm draining my cabbage, and we'll mix that up. And tell you what, we'll even try a little bit of it, and then we'll check on our beans. I hear them, so I think that I'm a little worried this isn't enough flavoring. We'll see, because I think it's going to be powerful too. So maybe a little goes a long way. Okay, and let's not forget our cilantro. And I'm gonna grab some tongs. That's the easiest way I find to. All right. I'm gonna mix this around. So I like a really refreshing and light cabbage whenever I'm bringing it in for lunch. If I do dinner, it might be a little bit heavier. It's just my palate. There's not really a reason, like a nutritional reason behind it, but that's one of the reasons why I meal prep these this way too, is just because I like it to be a little lighter and more refreshing. Because once it's sat in the refrigerator and then you're eating it and then you're eating it for the day or whatever, then it's really delicious. Something else, let me tell you, is that I'll put my refrigerated ingredients, I will store them separately from things that I know that I'm going to warm up. So for instance, today we're making the barbecue chicken with the refried beans. I'll put both of those in one container, and then I'll put my cabbage in a separate container, and then I will transfer it however I want, whether I want to eat it as like its own little salad, or I put some on my tacos, or both, or whatever. But I keep it separate. That way I'm planning ahead for the fact that I don't want warm cabbage. Sometimes I do, but the thought process is there. So let's go ahead and just try the cabbage by itself. And then we'll check on those beans. And then our chicken should be ready. I'll release the steam on it before.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you would check that separately, because if you could just make that as a side.
The cabbage?
Yeah, the citrus
Yeah.
coleslaw, yeah.
Yeah, I often do. This is good. I would add more lime. I would add a little bit more of all of the sauce, actually. I would maybe double the sauce recipe. It is good. The flavor is there. It's just not very strong. So I like cabbage. So the fact that it's a really strong cabbage flavor, I enjoy. I would also add in more cilantro just to get a little bit more refreshing the flavor. I'm having a hard time picking some up there. I would either double the flavoring, or I would take the time to dry my cabbage better, because I think my cabbage was, even though I strained it, it was too wet. So maybe taking some towels and like just massaging my cabbage really quick so that it would be able to hold that dressing a little bit better. And one of those two options would make this just have a little bit more of that punch of that flavor. It's there, it's just not strong, but it is good. All right, let's go jump over, check on our beans, see if we need to turn them off, and then we will check on the shredded chicken. Okay, beans are definitely done. I'm gonna go ahead and turn those off. Our chicken should be done. So what's gonna happen now is I'm gonna release. It's gonna release the steam. Has anyone here cooked with an Instant Pot before?
I have. It scares me every time.
Yeah. It definitely, like, there's a confidence level to it, but the more that I cook with it, the more excited or more happy I am with it. It's definitely it's a learning curve if you haven't grown up with one. But I find that especially with like beans and meats, so like more dense products, it makes them super tender, which I enjoy. All right. So that's releasing. Let me go ahead and scoop out our beans so that we can mash those really quick. Okay. So I have an actual like potato masher. I'm just gonna do this for right now because of time. But often I rather just use a fork and I mash it. So I'll show you what I'm doing here. I'm just taking a fork and I'm just mashing it together. and it'll start to release those, the starch components in there, and it'll naturally thicken itself up. Some people like a more creamy refried bean, and I would suggest using a mixer for that. And then you can even add in more sauce. But if you can tell, like I strained that liquid, and even now it's just mashing it up. It's going to be really good.
So you did
Oh.
drain the beans, or you did not?
So I didn't drain them when I cooked them, but I used a slotted spoon
Oh, okay.
to drain them to get them out.
Okay.
I just realized I didn't add the apple cider vinegar. So let me just do a shot of that in here, because that's an important component. You can cook with the apple cider vinegar in there. I just find that you add less and it's more noticeable if you do it after you've cooked. Okay. This honestly is about how I mash mine. I like to leave them like able to notice the bean, but you get the idea. It's thick enough. All right, and this is what our chicken looks like. It's just white, and it's got that water in there. This metal pan's gonna be hot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my chicken out. And I learned the coolest trick, y'all. I'm so excited to share it with y'all. I learned the coolest trick not too long ago, where you take your chicken and then you use a mixer to shred it. It is the fastest, most easiest thing. I literally shrilled with excitement whenever I found out you could do that, which is on video. I did it on Tuesday. I thought it'd be fun for us to watch it together. So I was beside myself. Now I removed the water from there. If I'm gonna freeze my shredded chicken, then I'll save some of the water and put it in with the baggies that I freeze it in. So let's go ahead and let's mix this up really quick. How cool is that? So excited that I know how to do that now. And then we're doing a cup.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it's at this point, whenever I'm doing meal prep, that I'll divide out. So I'll have all my containers lined out, and I'll be putting out however much chicken I want. And then I'll just either put my barbecue sauce on the side, or I'll layer it on top. For what we're doing right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just add everything in here, which is an entire bottle, which I ended up buying a name brand rather than like store brand, which store brand is usually cheaper, but not this time. They had a coupon with it, and it worked out to be cheaper. So always assess your options there. Let me get a fork just to mix this all around. Another thing, if you do venture into meal prep, that I highly recommend, I don't know if you can see, you can't, but I always have a sink full of water, because you can tell like I'm reusing products or reusing things. I like to dip it in or rinse it off and just make sure that I have something clean before I go back and forth between something else. Now, we've only got 8 minutes left. I don't want to spend time on heating up my tortillas, because we're going to run the risk of going over. But I'll tell you that I usually heat up my tortillas until they're a little bit brown. And then if I'm taking them into work, I carry them in Ziploc bags. And I will wrap them in paper towels when I'm at work. And I will wrap them in a wet paper towel, and I microwave them for like 30 seconds, more or less. And they're more pliable. They don't rip apart whenever you bite into them. You're probably going to see these rip on me. And they just taste better than like a super cold tortilla. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take some of my barbecue chicken. I'm going to layer it in here. The recipe, the way that I have it divided out, it's 2 tacos. It's 2 tacos. And then we are going to add on some of the cabbage. And then I have the beans for on the side. So I'll put some beans on here. me plate it really quick and you guys can see what everything looks like together. And the way that the recipe is or the way that I eat it, which is the way the recipe is, however you want to interpret it though, is that I put a little bit of cabbage on my tacos and then I'm going to put a little bit of cabbage on the side. Sometimes I just do a salsa. So I'll do the same thing. I'll maybe throw in some fajita seasoning and I toss my chicken in fajita seasoning. And then I bring a side of salsa and that's what my sauce is instead of barbecue sauce. So I really think this is versatile for whatever it works best for you. And I'm not gonna do that because that's cross-contamination. Go ahead.
Sorry, so you would like make your chicken and shred it the way you did and then just kind of save that, like you could do more chicken and then for the one night it's a barbecue sauce, then you'll add the barbecue sauce whenever you make it, or if it's a fajita seasoning, you'll add that whenever you're ready to make it.
Yes, exactly. Okay. If I know ahead of time I'm going to do something, maybe I'll do it right then and there. But for the most part, that's exactly what I'll do. So I'll divide out my chicken into my containers, like for instance, because usually I'm doing this for lunch. And then like, I'll do the barbecue sauce like this one, and I'll put that into the little individual container that I already have. And then the next one, maybe I'll do what I did for Tuesday, and I'm layering my rice and my beans in there, and then I'm putting my cilantro lime sauce on top of it.
Gotcha.
That way it's the same thing, but it doesn't taste like the same.
Yeah.
You know? So this is what a plate roughly looks like. It is a lot of food, I think. But I think it's going to be delicious. Let's go ahead and take a bite of our tortilla. And inside of here, I have a corn tortilla and cabbage and the barbecue sauce on the chicken.
I like that it's a corn and not a flour tortilla.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of corn. It's so good. The barbecue sauce that I chose, so I did the Salt Lick original. It's what was on sale, so it's a little bit more vinegary. I don't know if you tried it before, but it goes really well with the cabbage. It makes it taste light and refreshing. I can totally tell I did not cook my tortilla. Definitely cook your tortilla. It's a game changer with eating tacos. But it's really good. I really enjoy this. Just try some of the beans. Great flavor. The onion's kind of strong, actually. They're creamy. They you can taste the garlic in there because it's not overcooked. And then if you can see the texture of it, like you can still kind of taste the bean a little bit. Like you taste the bean a lot, but you can taste the texture of the bean is what I'm trying to say. It's got great flavor. And it's nice to change from that to the tacos. It doesn't compete, but it's just an additional flavor that's there. I don't think I would enjoy the beans on the tacos with everything, but that's just my palate. You could definitely do that if that's something you think you would enjoy. So, any other questions?
I think I missed the beginning. Did you say that this is your last class?
Yeah, it is. So starting in September, I'm going to be actively pursuing a thesis. And with that, what I'm doing will switch me into a different role and I'll be stepping down from here. So.
Oh, we'll be sad to see you go. So are we getting a new graduate student?
Yes, so I am sad to go. I actually shed some tears. I love this job so much. But so there's going to be another graduate assistant and her name is Amanda, I believe. And then there's also going to be dietetic interns that rotate frequently throughout our program. So you'll see them a lot too. You'll see them a lot more than you've previously seen them. So let me stop the recording. Hold on.